power sweep. Every football team eventually arrives at a lead play, a number one play, a bread and butter play. It is the play that the team knows it must make go, and the one its opponents know they must stop. Continued success with it, of course, makes a number one play, because from that success stems your own team's confidence. And behind that is the basic truth that it expresses the coach as a coach and the players as a team. And they feel complete satisfaction when they execute it successfully. My number one play is the power sweep. There's nothing spectacular about it. It's just a yard gainer. Look at it on the blackboard. We have it illustrated here against a 4-3 defense. One of the advantages of this play is that we feel we can run it against any defense, even or odd. Here is the 4-3 defense as it is illustrated here. We also will show it against an over defense, which we mean is that the defensive line is overshifted to the strength of the formation, and the defensive linebackers or the linebackers are shifted weak, given a Oklahoma setup on the weak side. And under defense, I mean by that the linemen are shifted weak with the linebackers shifted strong, given an Oklahoma look on the strong side. Here is a 4-4 defense, which is also a defense which has even spacing. The middle linebacker shifted strong, sometimes referred to as a 6-2 defense. This play can be blocked either odd or even, and it is the center's decision how it is to be blocked. Of course, in these two defenses, the over and the under defenses, there is no decision. It's odd to start with. There's a man playing directly on top of him, therefore he will make the odd call. Here, he does have a decision. What that decision is dependent upon two things: the position of this man and what kind of a man he is. For example, if he's too wide, there's no way that the center can get over here to make the onside cutoff. If he's very quick and very fast and is prone to follow the guards when they pull, the center realizes that he cannot make the onside cutoff and will make an odd call. We mean by that, on an odd call, instead of making the onside cutoff, he will make the cutoff on the middle linebacker. That call of odd also determines the block of the tackle. On an odd call by the center, the tackle must drive the man between himself and the ball, in this case, the one man. The YN's rule is to open up to a position somewhere between 6 and 9 feet from his tackle. We ask him to do this so he can isolate these two men, isolate the defensive man over the YN, so that the back can either cut inside the block of the YN or outside the block of the YN. A coaching point here is that we tell the YN under no circumstances should he allow penetration to the inside. We do not care how much penetration the defensive man gets to the outside. There is a particular technique we ask him to use here. We tell him, the YN, to set as on a pass. In other words, he uses exactly the same technique here as we ask the offensive lineman to use in protecting for the passer. We ask him to put his weight on his inside foot, keeping his eyes right on the numbers of the defensive man. So that if that defensive man does come to the inside real quickly, since his weight is on the inside foot, he can drive him down the line. This is the ideal way to run a sweep, as everyone knows. The worst thing can happen to the defense is to have a sweep get to the outside. Usually what happens is that the defensive man playing over the YN will penetrate to the outside. Here we have a different technique. Now, all we ask the YN to do is to open up his outside foot, keeping his eyes on the numbers, and when the numbers of the defensive man gets outside his eyes, he wheels them out. Just a plain wheel to keep him on the outside so that the back can cut inside. To repeat, the YN or the tight end's rule: set us on a pass and drive the man over him in the direction of his angle. Never allow penetration to the inside. We don't care too much about penetration to the outside, where it usually happens, by the way. Because of the pull of the guard, you'll find this man will come up the field to the outside. He will usually do one of those two things. He will try to penetrate in here. He will try to penetrate to the outside. Very, very seldomly will he try to come directly over the YN. If he comes to the inside, as we've already explained, it's up to the YN to drive him out. coming to the tackle, his rule, drive the man over him, or drive the two man, as I should say. If he's over him, none, slam the two man and seal inside. That's on an even call by the center. The fullback, and he works in coordination with the tackle, drive the first man outside the offensive tackle, none, seal inside. Coaching point here for the fullback. He must make a direct attack almost over the outside leg of the offensive tackle. And the first man that shows, and in this particular case it's the first man outside the offensive tackle, the first man that shows, he drives him. None. None. In other words, no one shows. He goes right by this and seals inside. Another coaching point for the fullback here is to take a direct approach, a straight line approach. A very common error we find even up here with us is that most of the fullbacks try to take a roundabout approach or a circle approach. As a result, the defensive end or the defensive two-man here will make a quick penetration coming way inside the fullback and knocking off the guards. Penetration here is as bad as it is here. So we ask the fullback to go as quickly as he possibly can, as fast as he possibly can, on a straight approach, in a straight line to make this block. In fact, we even tell him if it's necessary, cheat up there a little bit. And we don't care who knows it or who sees it, cheat up there so he can make that block as quick as he possibly can. Penetration is the one thing we don't want. On an odd call by the center, this call affects both the tackle and the fullback. Odd call, even though this is an even defense. As I mentioned previously, this means that the center feels he cannot make the onside block on an even call. He will now call odd, making a cutoff on a middle linebacker. This now tells the tackle that he must drive the man between himself and the ball, and it also tells the fullback that right now he's got the man who's either over or outside the offensive tackle. The onside guard who pulls onside, and his rule is to pull onside and drive the first man outside the block of the YN. His technique is to pull on a 45-degree angle. In other words, his first leg or his lead foot will be at a 45-degree angle. And he must be aware, of course, of the fullback passing in front of him. He allows the fullback to pass in front of him, and he pulls behind him. One of the common errors, of course, is that this boy or this guard is so quick to get out of here and so quick to get out of here that he cuts off the fullback's block. So he must come behind the fullback. The fullback comes up to take a tackle, and he comes behind him. Preferably, we would like him to continue on the outside of the YN's block, to force it way on the outside of the YN's block, even though this man tries to come up on the outside. And the reason for that is that it forces this defensive man, this linebacker who's playing over the YN, to continue on the outside. Later on, as they become more experienced, we will allow them sometimes to come inside the block and to go outside and block on the halfback, to go inside and then block outside. The off guard, his technique is to pull flat, and the reason he has to pull flat, so he will not interfere with the quarterback. So his first move is flat. After he gets by the position of the quarterback, he will then belly. He will belly and keep looking inside, and he will take the first daylight. The first hole that he sees, in other words, he will turn up, and he too will seal inside. The weak side tackle has what we feel a real difficult assignment, a very difficult technique, really. Actually, what he has to do is prevent any kind of plugging by the first man to his inside. In this case, we refer to him as a one-man. His technique is to pull deep. One of the common errors is to pull too flat. If he pulls too flat in this area, with this man blocking onside and the onside guard pulling, this gives this man a great area in which to pursue that ball carrier. So what we ask him to do is to pull real deep out here, as deep as he possibly can, almost the same technique as the guards use, in order to cut this man off. The deeper he pulls, we feel, a better position. If this man were to go in pursuit this way, he would just continue and he'd take the first hole and seal. Usually what happens, however, this man comes in and we're in position to make the cutoff on him, or to run up his back, by the way, which is perfectly legal, because all this action takes place on the line of scrimmage. The weak side end releases for the weak side safety, just a straight release, and sometimes he may be split. The wing back, his technique is to come off the line of scrimmage to try to drive the halfback back. We feel that the longer or the longer he can delay the halfback from coming up to meet this play, the better the play will be. So his technique is to come off to simulate a pass. However, he must be very aware of the safety man. If the safety man forces quickly, he's got to come off that drive and drive down on the safety. His assignment is the safety man. If it's a zone coverage or a coverage where they're rotating, where the halfback is doing the forcing and the safety man is going to the corner, he will run right by the halfback for the safety man. The quick force, of course, he's got to come off and drive it down. The halfback's technique, and the halfback is the ball carrier on a power sweep right, is the lead step and to come across just as hard and as fast as he can in a straight line. Now, as soon as he gets the ball from the quarterback, who opens up in an open pivot, as soon as he gets the ball, he seats it and then comes under control with a slight belly. We ask him to come under control and to belly slightly so he can key the block of the Y end on the linebacker or the man who's playing over the Y end, so he can make a decision whether to go inside or outside of that block. Also, if he comes across too fast, he not only will not be able to make the cut back inside, also will cut off the guards or beat the guards out in that area. So we ask him to come under control to key that block. If the defensive man is the isolation man or the defensive linebacker is driven to the outside, the linebacker or the back will cut inside. If the man makes a move to the inside, the back will continue and go to the outside. That's one of the great advantages to this play. It has really two holes. We're looking for that isolation between the Y end and the linebacker, and we also want to create an alley right in here. That's what we are looking for. The block out by the guard, the block in by the safety man, the seal in this area, the isolation here that gives the ball carrier the alley in which to run. I've actually seen this play run inside the defensive end. The man in this position, the two-man, who reads the play sometimes and makes a violent move to the outside. But because of the belly of the halfback, because of the control running of the halfback can see this, and he comes off the outside foot, and bing, he bring it right back inside the defensive end. That's what makes it one of the great plays, I believe, because it has so many holes to hit. Now, here's the sweep in the game. Here it is again. Now, I don't mean that our opponents cannot make an unusual adjustment to stop the sweep. And there are many adjustments that can be made. However, when they do it, they leave themselves open to other areas of attack. For example, we have a play which we call an influence play or a sucker play. The defensive man in this position, whom we refer to as the defensive tackle, right here, with the pull of the guard and with the flow of the play, and with the blocking in which the center either blocks onside on the sweep or goes for the middle linebacker, there's no question that there's a great area here for him to chase the play and try to catch the play from behind. As you know, what we try to do in explaining, when we explain the sweep, we want the removed tackle or the left tackle to come and cut off from the backside. But sometimes, if the defensive tackle takes a real sharp angle, it's almost impossible to get him. Now, this, we think, is an unusual adjustment of defensive play in order to stop that sweep. So we have a play that will attack that area, which we call an influence play or a sucker play. Actually, what happens, the guard pulls hard exactly as he does on the sweep. The other guard pulls exactly as he does on the sweep. And the halfback, the ball carrier on a sweep, pulls across just like he does on the sweep. And what we do, we have solid blocking here now and solid blocking here now. And what we do, as he chases, we jab step here. The quarterback spins exactly like he does on a sweep, except the fullback now comes back and runs into this hole without a block. In other words, there's no solid block on that defensive man. That's why we call it a sucker play. We suck him into following the play, and now we give the ball carrier, or we give the ball, or we run the ball into an area which he vacates. Now watch it in this championship game. Watch the left guard, number 68, pull as for the sweep. Watch Watch the right defensive tackle, influenced by the pull, take himself out of the play with his charge. Another common adjustment to stop the sweep, or used to stop the sweep, is the play of the defensive end in this position. He makes a real outside move. In other words, he comes way outside to force the sweep deep. In other words, and knock off the guards so the blocking cannot take place out here. And this is a very, very common one. And what we do is to attack inside of him when we feel that a defensive end is doing that. We call this the long trap. Everything is set up exactly as the sweep. The position of the fullback, the position, the position of the end. He takes the Y end takes the same position as he does on the sweep. Everything is made to look exactly like the sweep. The fullback influences him even a little bit more. He will drive right at the outside leg of that defensive end, exactly as he does on the sweep, in order to pull him up the field even that much more. And then we'll go through the hole, right through that hole, trying to seal off the linebacker so the linebacker cannot fall off and come back and make the tackle inside. That's very, very important. So he's got to get in there as quick as he can into this hole, in between the end and the linebacker, to seal that particular area off. Here, the guard and the tackle use a doodad type of operation. The offensive right guard drives with his inside shoulder right at the inside of the defensive tackle. With his outside shoulder, with his right shoulder, he drives to the inside of the defensive tackle, all the time looking at the linebacker. If the linebacker were to come in hard, he would cut him off. He would leave this block and block the middle linebacker. The offensive tackle leads with his inside foot, the same as he does in the down block, and leads for the outside hip of the defensive man. If the defensive man goes to the inside, he will also seal on the middle linebacker. If the defensive man comes to him, he will block, and the guard will leave and seal on the inside. The YN releases immediately inside to become a seal man. The center blocks back, down blocks to his outside, or down blocks to his backside. The offensive left guard pulls on a trap close to the line of scrimmage. He gains ground into this area and kicks out on the defensive end. This operation is made to look as much like the sweep as we possibly can. The halfback comes across straight. The quarterback pulls out hard, exactly as he does on the sweep, except now it's an underneath handoff to give him a better approach to the trap, to the hole. And of course, we run that play inside the defensive end with a seal here and hopefully a seal on the outside. One other minor point here, and I think it's very important, is that at times, if we get a violent outside charge where the fullback cannot get through the hole, the fullback will take and drive out, and the guard will exchange assignments and go through the hole, and he will seal on the outside linebacker. We call this the long trap. Another effective play, and I think a play that goes hand in hand with the sweep, in fact, if you want to make the sweep go, I think this play is a must, is the halfback option, where the halfback has the option of either throwing or running. Everything is made to look exactly like the sweep. For example, if you remember the instructions to the flanker, to the wingback, when he blocked on the safety man on the sweep, was to come down the field and then to drive in on that safety man and then block him in. Well, he starts out exactly the same. He comes down, drives at that safety man, and will continue on it until he can't see him. What I mean by that is, if the safety is, this is a safety force, and the safety were to come up, then he would, when he can't see him, then he would break back to the corner. If the safety stays back, he just continues and runs in this route in order to keep him back. The YN, if you remember on the sweep, sets a little bit and then takes this man in the direction of his angle. He does the same thing. He sets and he pumps those feet a little bit like that in order to make this man move, and then after about, I would say, 3 counts, 1001, 1002, 1003, he releases and then runs a flat route out into this area. The blocking here is solid, down block, take block, pull, and most important that he pull, and the first man he looks for, of course, is the release. Once the YN releases him, he's got the block on that linebacker if the linebacker were to force the halfback coming across. Block back, the seal, pull, and then turn back in this area to take anyone who comes from the back, anyone who's chasing from the back, middle linebacker, anyone at all who happens to chase. The ball is handed off to the halfback, who comes across with the same action. When he's to about this point, he's got to make a decision, whether he throws or whether he runs. And, of course, the decision is based upon whether he's getting a force from the halfback or whether he's getting a force from the linebacker or whether the safety is forcing. In other words, a lot of times they read pass. They smell pass. They know it's the option. So everybody falls off here. Everybody stays back. And as all the halfback does now is say run, and he will take that ball with this guard as his lead blocker and go down the field. If the force is here, he throws to whoever is open. If it's the YN open or the halfback open, of course, which is ideal. If the halfback is open, that's touchdown. The YN is usually the one that's open, and, of course, it's a pretty good gain. It's a takeoff off the sweep and an excellent play. Remember, however, that the success of all these adjustments is based first on the success of your number one play. Only after you have forced your opponent to respect that play can you call on, for example, the halfback option and expect it to go, as it does here in this game. Another effective possibility against an unusual adjustment, for example, an unusual adjustment made by the defensive backs, where the defensive backs rotate or roll toward the flanker or toward the strength of the formation, toward this flanker, either with the safety man coming up tight or the halfback coming up tight. So when the sweep starts, they're ready to hit it quick before the blockers can form and turn downfield. Now, the key, of course, for the quarterback here is when the weak side safety comes over toward the center. And that has to be, as you know, we're missing a blocker now if we run that sweep to the left side, away from the flanker, the block of the flanker. There's no flanker on this side, so we're missing one. Therefore, the safety, when he's in this position, is not in an effective position to hit the sweep quickly. So what we do is run the weak side sweep with exactly the same blocking that we use on the front side sweep or the strong sweep, the sweep that goes toward the flanker. And instead of the YN now, we run it toward the XN. The XN takes the same spacing, the 9-foot split, he opens up 9 feet to get this man over him. He takes this man in any direction that he wants to go. Exactly the same thing we tell the YN. The offensive tackle, or left tackle in this case, influences the defensive end and then seals for the middle linebacker. The center comes onside. The backside tackle cuts off from the back. The onside guard pulls and kicks out on the first man, and the second guard, he pulls and turns up any place that he can turn up. The same instructions we give to the backside guard going the other way, and then seals also. The fullback, of course, blocks on the defensive end. The fullback is now, the halfback blocks on the defensive end, and the fullback, of course, now is the ball carrier. Same instructions exactly. He comes across, the button hooks a little bit, loses a little bit of ground, key in the block. If the linebacker goes outside, he breaks inside. If the linebacker comes inside, he runs it as a regular sweep. It's a countermeasure against a rotating defense. And he runs to daylight.